All right, so we're going to discuss laminated doughs. All right, so what does laminated mean? It's culinary preparation consisting of many thin layers of dough separated by butter, um, and it's produced by folding and refolding. You have to fold and fold and fold some more, and you can see in the photo here that there's many layers, and that's how you make a laminated dough. Right? What happens when the dough cooks? So what happens is you've folded it over and over and over and over, and you folded butter in between the layers. And what happens is when the butter gets hot, the water that's in the butter will evaporate. When it evaporates, it expands, causing the dough to puff up and separate. And then the lipids in the butter eventually will fry the dough, making it a little more stiff and resulting in a flaky product. All right. Examples of laminated dough are croissants, Danishes, and puff pastry. This is an example of a breakfast item that's served inside of a puff pastry shell. You could also do something like a chicken a la king. A lot of people will do like a mushroom hors d'oeuvre. I like to take andouille sausage, grilled chicken, and roll it together and bake it off inside of puff pastry and serve that with sesame barbecue. It's very good. Phyllo dough is also a laminated dough, and if you've ever worked with it, it's like paper. It's really super thin. You have to work with it quickly. If you don't work with it quickly, it will dry out. But you can make things like spanakopita. You can make bacala. You can make apple strudel. All right. The way you do it is you fold the butter in. So you make a Danish dough. And if you watch the video we made on my YouTube channel about cinnamon rolls, cinnamon rings, it's the same dough, but what you have to do is you have to add the butter. So you take the butter and you cool it off, and this has been pressed into a nice square, and then you fold one half over and the other half over. So the next picture is folding the one half over, then the next half over, and then you'll spin it, you'll rotate it, all right, 30 or 60 degrees, and then you'll roll it, and you'll do it again, and then you'll put it in the refrigerator and you let it rest. And you have to do this at least 3 times. And what happens is every time you fold it, you spin it, and then you fold it again. You're adding more layers each and every time, and you're putting butter in between those layers each and every time. So like I said, when it bakes off, the water in the butter evaporates and makes the skin, the thing rise, and also makes it separate. All right. So like I said, you have to fold it after you put the butter in. You fold it once, and then you're going to take it out 3 more times, and you're going to roll it out gently. You're going to take your time with it. You're not going to beat it up. Fold over one half, fold over the other half, fold it over again, and then you'll spin it, and you'll refrigerate it, and you'll pull it out, and you'll do it again. So let's watch the video. Chef I is going to do it and give you the example, show you in person exactly how to handle it. It's a 2-day process. This is not something that you can all of a sudden say, oh, I'm going to make Danishes today, or I'm going to make croissants today. It's a 2-day process. It takes some time, and it takes some effort, and you have to handle it gently. All right, here we go. Watch the video.
You can see my dough has sat and risen. Now we're doing a laminated dough. It's a rich dough. As we know, rich doughs have eggs and sugar and butter. This has milk, has some type of dairy product. What makes this rich dough different than let's say for example, cinnamon rolls versus croissants or Danish is this rolled in block of butter. In commercial kitchens, they'll use a sheeter or a machine that'll roll in those layers of butter. Here, we get to do it by hand with what we call a butter block. So now this is butter that I chilled down, rolled out and chilled down, and it's going to get what we call 4 folds inside my dough here. So right here, right now, this would be like a rich dough. You can make cinnamon rolls out of it. But with the addition of the butter, it's going to become laminated. And when you guys eat croissants and Danish, and it has those lines, all those little lines in between it, that's the lamination, they say, in the dough. So what I'm going to do is just roll this out gently. We mix this. As you know, beforehand we made our sponge, which consisted of everything but our flour and our salt. So we had our liquid, we had our sugar, we had our eggs, we had our milk, between 90 and 110 degrees, and our yeast. So now I don't want any excess flour on this dough. So I'm going to brush that off. This dough will not be finished until tomorrow because, as I said before, we have to roll this butter in 4 different occasions, and we can't just do it continuously because we know as we work the dough, we develop gluten, and it needs time to rest. It's like exercise muscles. They work, they rest, they could do more. They work, they rest, they could do more. And as we're rolling this in, this butter is going to become soft. So we have to take breaks in between and allow the butter and the dough to chill down and come to the same temperatures so we can work with them. Now covering this is my first, but this isn't my first fold, but not my first roll. There's 4 total, there's 3 times we fold this. You'll notice I'll cover the dough, the butter around the dough. Brush off the excess. And now again, when we're rolling this out, I'm not going to use a lot of force or pressure, just enough to roll the dough the way I like it to be. And then we're going to put what we call a book fold in this. Now this is almost there. And if you look closely through the dough, you could see the pats of butter in there. Brush off my excess. So I'm going to fold this in a third to the middle here, and then a third over the top. Then I'm going to rotate it. So now we're going to let this chill for an hour or so, and then my next rolling and folding will be this way. Now I'm going to put this on a sheet pan, dust it with some flour, and I'm going to put a moist towel clean over the top. Why? Because I do not want this to form a crust. Remember, a skin. Crust is good on breads. The skin is not good on doughs or breads. So that's all I can do with it now. And we'll let it chill down for an hour, and then we'll come back and put another fold into it.
All right, here we go.
Okay, so you could see after we let it rest, I could roll out the dough again. And we're ready for another fold. So I bring this to the center, third of the way there, fold this over the top, rotate it, we have our book fold. Now I could feel the dough getting a little tougher and stiffer. So now we're going to let this rest in the fridge, like before, covered with a towel for an hour, and then we'll check it again for our next fold.
Chef, why not plastic?
Plastic wrap? You could spray plastic wrap, and Chef, and put it over it. I like a towel because it's dusted with flour. It doesn't stick. Okay, sometimes plastic, if you're not careful with it, will stick to your dough and actually tear or rip your dough. Okay. And I don't like to spray this dough, so that's the reason why I just use a towel.
You can also see the butter still in there too.
You could still see the butter in there. And I got a nice square block of dough here. And if I was try to go like this now, I could feel it tightening up. Again, like worked muscles, don't want to go any further at this point.
And how many more times are you going to do this process?
A total of 3. All right, it's 4 if you count in the initial folding in the butter. But
So
there's three folds.
So this would be your second one. You have one more after this.
Correct.
All right.
Perfect. You can see after another hour or so, we're ready for our final fold here. I left this in the fridge and I left it out. The dough's nice and soft. Like the muscles, they're relaxed again. Gently press this, almost press this into place, because then tomorrow we will be ready to make some croissants. Some Danish, we'll show you how we finish off this dough. And you can still see it by doing this and letting it rest and not putting a lot of pressure. The dough is still very smooth. It's not all rough. The butter's not tearing through, even though you can see signs of it. Signs of it, but now the last one, I want to look at the bottom there. I want to fold my good side over the top, my better side. So, press off the excess. My final book fold. Tomorrow, be ready to roll this out in the Danishes or croissants. The lamination is complete. I'm feeling this side and I'm thinking, well, maybe that wasn't my better side. Maybe we'll fold this side in and hold the top with this one. So this one looks a little bit. I always want to check on the last one. This one's much more doable. Now this has yeast in it. Again, it's going to rise in the fridge. Remember, we talked about a cold proof. This is going to cold proof, and I could put this in the freezer and then thaw it out after a day and roll it out, because the yeast will remain dormant, or I can leave it in the cooler for up to 2 days. I wouldn't want to go any further than that, because then I'm going to start sacrificing the life of the yeast. We got a lag phase. You'll notice got a nice uniform piece of dough here. And tomorrow when I start, I'm just going to gently go. The dough is still smooth, you can see. And you can see that we didn't tear the dough. We can see the butter being laminated in there. Just press it in space a little bit more and we're all set. Thank you, Chef. So we had all our folds put in the dough. We took it out, I let it sit out for about an hour so it'll come to room temperature again. Like those cold muscles, you don't want to just start exercising when it's cold. And I rolled it out, squared it off. I'm going to do a couple different applications here. I'm going to make some cinnamon apple croissants. Traditional croissants, and then roll out some regular Danish dough. Regular Danish croissant dough. So we're just going to take an end off here, just to make a couple traditional croissants. Just to show the variations and versatility that this dough has to offer. And these scraps here I'm not going to throw away. We're going to use those. A little slice here. So traditional, your triangular croissants. And we're going to roll these up. Each of these items is going to go on a clean sheet pan, dry with parchment paper, and these items are going to get egg washed. Our traditional croissants. I'm going to take a portion of this, slide this to the side, and we're going to make some filled, like the rectangular type croissants. We're just going to simply divide this dough evenly, just so we get an idea of what these would be like. These would be some small ones. I could spread these out all at once, do them all at once. Really small little dough. Roll this out. And something for my filling. So thin these out a little bit. These yeast raised products, so we know they have to go back in a proof box. We talk about our 3 rises, not 1, not 2, but total. Our last one in the oven we call oven spring. So we just want to make these workable. I don't want to handle this dough any more than I have to. You can put various things in here, chocolate chips, apricot glaze, many things of that nature. Very versatile, like I said, dough. Many applications for this dough. And then I'm gonna fold these over. Fold these over. Then I'm gonna pinch it, and I want to put the seam side down. Because remember, these have yeast in them, so what's gonna happen? They're gonna rise, and that's going to expand. As I've said before, they open up like a flower. You want to keep that seam on the bottom. There are machines that do these. When you see the commercial ones in your grocery stores and food stores, and nothing beats being done by hand. How soft this dough is. You can see a little bit of butter, but you notice because we took our time and we were patient with that rolling and folding, that we don't have butter smearing out all over the counter. That tells me the lamination of this was done correctly. Now, cinnamon rolls, you noticed I would brush butter down here, but there's so much butter in this laminated dough that I'm not going to do that. So in turn, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sprinkle this with some cinnamon, a little brown sugar, and then I'm going to put the apples inside the Danish here as well, seasoned, and apples and cinnamon together. Good amount of cinnamon because it is apple cinnamon. Brown sugar has molasses that we know, so that'll provide some moisture for us here. And I'm just going to lightly press this in, again, not damaging the dough. Put this somewhere in between because I'm going to fold this like a log. process we started yesterday. Now, here's another key point. I fold this over. This little bit of bench flour I had, this excess flour, we want to dust that off. You could see some butter here from the lamination. All right, you could see it, which is fine. It's not coming out. It's not getting soft. It's not breaking off in my hand. We don't want to. We want to keep the integrity of the dough together. So I don't want any excess flour than I need. Because like we said when we do coffee cakes or banana bread or pound cake, any of those loaf pans, we want to dust off the excess flour. Same concept applies here. Now you'll say, well, how long do they proof? Well, again, a yeast-raised product, it's relative. How hot is my proof box? How hot or cold is your kitchen? We want to see them open up like a flower and double in size. Then we know they're done. I want to get all that excess off.
So Chef, why do you put so much on the cutting board to begin with?
Well, again, excellent question, Chef. Very soft dough. It has a lot of butter in it. The dough itself is soft because it's a rich dough. I don't want it sticking to the counter. So what would happen is if I didn't have enough flour there, as I was rolling this out, it would just stick to the counter, and the whole integrity of my dough will be compromised because if the butter warms up, the dough warms up, it starts sticking to the counter. I don't have a nice uniform package like this. I have tears in my dough. You notice there's no tears in the dough here. There's no rips in the dough. It all stays together. Now, even these scraps here, I'm gonna save because I'll make something out of that because people have to eat. So I like to take a serrated knife with this when I do this. So we have a uniform package, and then I'm gonna cut these the same length. Now, notice my log is the same, my roll is the same. Again, uniformity in cooking. We talk about that with meats. We talk about that when we fill cake pans. Very important. So now I'm going to cut them evenly. Well, how do I do that? Well, I could measure, or I could take, let's say, the tip of my finger and go in so they're the same size. Over, you'll see the filling, and you'll see that. Now what I'm going to do is get a sheet pan, a parchment, put these on there, and I can egg wash them. Again, any yeast-raised product, we want to stretch out. We want to leave room for the yeast to expand.
Why not put them all on one sheet tray?
Well, excellent question, Chef, because just like any items that are not the same size, now had these all been the same size and thickness, I can certainly do that, but you'll notice they're different sizes, which means they're going to cook at a different rate, and they're going to cook at a different rate. What I would often tell students with that is that if I put you in the oven and me or Chef in the oven with you at the same time, by the time Chef or I were cooked, because we're bigger than you, you guys would be toast.
saying
So I
we're
would
fat?
have no uniformity in cooking.
Are you saying we're fat, Chef?
So I'm not saying, but
I'm
just saying.
You're not saying, you're just saying.
And if they're the same size, they're likely to proof together the same size. You notice I'm just gently pressing these down. So these are going to get an egg wash. When they proof, they're going to go in the oven. When they come out, they're going to get glazed with that sugar water, which we know is simple syrup. And then when they cool slightly, so the ice doesn't run off, we're going to put icing on the top. So now you notice I have the 3 different kinds of this very versatile dough. And egg wash. Very important when you egg wash that you cover the whole entire item, not just the top, but get the sides as well. Why? Well, if you've ever had a bad suntan because you didn't put lotion on your whole body, you know what I mean when I say a bad suntan. So I want to make sure I coat all of that evenly.
What's in your egg wash? Just eggs?
For this, it's just straight eggs. Some people use milk, some people use egg whites, some people use eggs and water. I like the color, the golden brown color of straight eggs, and the flavor. It does impart some flavor too. So now you look at these and they look very tight and bound. Okay, so when they proof, they'll open up and look like a flower. Now I have 3 different sizes here because we have 3 different uses or applications for this dough. So these may proof at different rates, which is fine too, which is another reason to keep them together on the same tray. One thing this dough and baking in general will teach you is patience, because this is not something you could whip together quickly like, say, a sauteed item or a batch of cookies. Okay, so now we see this running for about an hour, and like I said before, they opened up like a flower. You can see the lines of lamination from the butter in there. These are ready for the oven, as well as our other croissants, which have come up nicely. They look like a pillow. They're nice. And then even our regular croissants, which have more than doubled in size. So I'm going to put these in the oven for like 10 to 12 minutes, and then we're going to see what they look like then. So we can see they came out of the oven. They cooled for about 5 minutes. Now we're going to apply our simple syrup. We'll let them sit maybe another 10 minutes or so, and then we're going to add our icing. And we have some beautiful apples, cinnamon Danish, and some croissants. These croissants are nice and light. You can see the bottom. See the butter oozing out of them.
Chef, why would you not put the glaze on now?
Because it's still warm, and what will happen is all that nice glaze or icing is just going to run off because of the heat, and it won't stick to it. We want it to stick to it. This sugar water simple syrup is sticky, so with them being a little bit warm, this will soak in a little bit more. This is more liquid. It's not as solid as the glaze. And the heat from these will just make the glaze run right off.
This last pan here is what you made out of the scraps?
So this is all, yeah, believe it or not, Chef, this is all the scraps. So you can see how we've almost got another half a tray out of just the scraps.
And it's a pretty intense, laborious dough, so you don't want to waste any.
Exactly. And in the bake shop, they would, or commercial bake shop, in the old days, they would sell these at like a reduced rate.
Like a day old type thing?
Like a day old type thing, or they call it seconds, and they would still utilize product. So after they sat and cooled a little bit, You can see now we're applying the icing, and you can see it's adhering to it because it's not so hot that they're running off. Notice, again, like seasoning, I'm applying these from a height, from a distance, so I have a bigger visual plane. You could use a spoon, you could use a whisk.
And what exactly is in your glaze?
This is just powdered sugar, and this one has a little bit of milk, so it's a little bit richer. You could put water. Sometimes with the apples, I put apple juice because it complements the apples.
Could you put orange juice, or would it react?
Just gonna say, Chef, you could put orange juice. Yes, yes, you can.
Sometimes I make the Italian cookies, and I'll do a glaze that has orange on it.
Orange, lemon juice, or if you want to contrast the flavors, absolutely.
No worries with the acid in the lemon?
No, it's not going to cook through the sugar.
Okay.
And nothing's going to last that long. As a matter of fact, the other day I made a lemon glaze for cookies, and it's still good. And that's pretty much it.
All right, so here's the final product, and you can see the leavening from the side. We cut it open so you can see how the layers that are in there, and the leavening that happened when it was baked.